Welcome to this week's episode of Back to the Feature. On the show today, we'll be reviewing a couple of the big seasonal releases. Peter Jackson takes us back to Middle-earth in The Hobbit. Tom Cruise returns to the big screen in Jack Reacher. And we headed out onto the streets to ask you about your favourite Christmas films. We also have a classic film from the film archive, and we have the film calendar. So sit back, relax, and let us take you back to the feature. First up this week in Jack Reacher, Tom Cruise plays a military policeman hired by Rosamund Pike to investigate when a sniper murders 5 people. Werner Herzog plays the villain as the pair try to get to the bottom of a deep-rooted conspiracy.
Jack Reacher is a ghost, served in the military police. A brilliant investigator. Troublemaker, too. Then 2 years ago, he disappears. You don't find this guy unless he wants to be found.
Excuse me, sir. There's a Jack Reacher here to see you.
Christopher McQuarrie, who wrote and directed the film, he wrote the screenplay. He's a clever guy, Christopher McQuarrie. I like him as a writer. He wrote Way of the Gun and The Usual Suspects, but I think he's probably hit on ground here that he's probably not too familiar with this kind of tone of film, which would be like a throwback action film of the 80s.
It failed to engage me in any way, anyway. I was just lost right from the start. Well, not lost as in the plot wasn't so thick that I was lost in the plot, but I was just lost as in I wasn't on board.
Yeah. Didn't always get that the film was trying to be tongue-in-cheek, and then sometimes it seemed to, it was, and sometimes it wasn't.
Well, I'm still not convinced that it was trying to be. I think it was accidental.
That scene where the guys come into the bathroom and they start attacking Tom Cruise and they hit everything but Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't take that seriously.
No.
You know, so
well, that
I mean,
didn't
like,
seem to belong in the same film up to that point.
No.
That kind of came, that slapstick scene out of the blue.
Exactly, yeah.
It was like something out of Keystone Cops where they were hitting each other in the head with batons and all.
Yeah, but I mean, even dialogue-wise, it was like throwback to the 80s. You know, like, you know, one character finishing another character's sentence. You know, you mean, yes, I mean, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Or whatever, you know, stuff like this.
The line that you're thinking of is when she says, "You don't mean?"
Yeah.
And then
Yes,
like
I do.
like an episode of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, such a body didn't do it, or whatever.
You
know,
could see the plot unfolding within her eyes. You don't mean?
Yeah.
That's a pretty impressive response time, fellas.
My biggest problem with this is, well, I haven't found a little bit afterwards that Jack Reacher was supposed to be this hulking 6'4", 6 foot guy got built like a brick shithouse.
He's more like Arnold Schwarzenegger than a
and
Tom
we see
Cruise,
Tom
like,
Cruise, little Tom Cruise as a role. You never really felt he's hadn't the physicality for that role anyway.
Okay, now we know who's who. Let's get this done.
You wonder how much script changes were made to
Yeah.
please Mr. Cruise and to fit him into that role.
Exactly, yeah.
It was
Good choice of words.
very uneven though, wasn't it? Though I mean, as far as just trying to say like, what are they trying to achieve with this here? As far as the characterization goes, is he funny? Because he did crack a couple of James Bond style one-liners which fell completely flat. Werner Herzog as the ex-Siberian prisoner, the man with a finger and a thumb, who ate off the rest of his fingers and tried to make another guy eat his own fingers at one point as well, which was a very humorous scene, I have to say. Maybe I should give it an extra point at the end for that.
Were they going for humour in that scene, though? I thought that was supposed to be the real...
To show how
Pardon the
evil-
pun, nail-biting scene.
Yeah.
There's this girl. She came on to me, picked a fight.
Which never happens in a bar.
She was thrown when I told her my name.
She was expecting Mike Tyson.
Rosamund Pike, the female lead, as
Yeah,
the
she
lawyer.
just seemed so
Another
flat,
prank.
even the way she talked. There was no expression in it or anything, and absolutely zero chemistry between her and Tom Cruise.
Yeah. She did actually look quite. There's a scene where Tom Cruise stands shirtless for some reason, and she actually looked more frightened than
They have
anything
the
else.
camera shot just catching the Tom's boob and her face looking towards.
Yeah, that was in it.
There was a focus pull from Tom's breast to her. gobsmacked face.
Yeah, yeah. And she's like, will you please put your shirt on? And I think everyone in the cinema
yeah.
felt the
Yeah,
exact
yeah,
same thing.
nice.
Tom, put it away, man. Anyway,
Yeah. We were all just thinking
we're
about
Tom's,
Tom.
we're transfixed by Tom's boob.
How did he get
His
them so
man
pert?
boob, yeah. How did that leathery boob transfix us all for so long? And that scene, like, it didn't end. It stayed there.
oh,
You're
yeah.
like, really, dude?
That sure stayed off.
Yeah, yeah.
You know who's calling these shots too, like, you know,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
like the
it's-
director say, we gotta try and get Tom's boob into this shot.
Tom.
Yeah.
I'm going, look at the nick
Yeah.
I'm in for 78 years of age, or whatever age he is now. Scientology has kept him young, drinking the blood of virgins.
I'd like to kill you.
You're dead. You're dead.
Tom
This
Cruise
is
is
like-
gonna get you, Ed.
This is going to be the bit of footage that they're going to show on the news.
He's gonna get you.
It did feel like he was driving in and out of a load of cars on
I
the
actually
motorway.
heard about this car chase before I seen the film, and when I seen him, the hand going for the gear stick. Here we go. You know what I mean? At last.
You'd heard about the car chases and you'd heard it was good.
I heard stuff.
Great stuff.
I heard stuff.
I heard.
And yeah, so I was rubbing my hands, like, you know, and then the next thing, they were saying like bullet-esque car chase.
Really?
Really.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So it was like, nice one. Here we go. Not.
It was like, for me, it was like
Here
the
we don't
bits
go.
for, remember, Herbie Goes Bananas, where he just kind of speeds up and drives in and out of all the cars. All right, lads, then. Jack Reacher, marks out of 10. Eric, did you came in, you knew a bit about it.
I enjoyed some parts of it. Had some nice scenes in it and all that, but granted, not a lot. And I do like Tom Cruise. You know what I mean? And I know we were saying there, you know, that he's not what he used to be and all that kind of thing. But I mean, like I said, he has a great presence on screen, and you know, he does his thing. You're guaranteed he's going to do his thing when he goes on screen. So for Tom alone, right, I'm going to give it 4 out of 10. Not overly happy at all with this film. I think Macquarie is that they're messing up big time, and he should go back to doing his thrillers and all that, because action, comedy, drama thrillers are not his.
Mike?
Yeah, well, I went in knowing nothing. Like I said to Ed as the credits are rolling, that this movie could be a Western or a science fiction, and I wouldn't even know. And that's the way I like to go into movies, which you seldom get to do. And then it just failed on every level for me.
It shows how uneven it is, I suppose.
For the first 5 minutes, I think I kind of enjoyed that scene where the sniper was setting up and even when he was looking through the scope, and it was shot well, it was edited well. So for those first 5 or 10 minutes, I can give it 1 point out of 10. From there on, I won't give it anything. And I like Tom Cruise. I think he's a great actor. I think now that he's on the production side of things, he's just destroying everything.
Yeah,
he's
I know
putting
what you
himself
mean,
into these action
No,
movies.
It was
I
a
think that's-
Tom,
sound
Cruise
design.
production. It
Yeah.
was very prominent at the start, yeah.
He's
Yeah.
playing these roles that he wants to be this guy.
He doesn't care about the law. He doesn't care about proof. He only cares about what's right.
It felt like a film that they didn't know what they wanted to achieve with it as such. Like, I thought they were trying to put action in to get, you know, bums on seats. They were trying to make something a bit different, something a bit funny. But then in the end, ended up failing on all those levels. 3 out of 10 for me. There is a couple of laughs, there's a couple of bits that work, but on the whole, it's a bit of a mess.
I'm in love with Tom Cruise's boobies, that's why I go see all his movies. When he takes off his shirt, his boobies sit there nice and pert. He can flex those sexy man boobs like nobody else in the business can do. Darling, I'm leaving you for Tom Cruise's boobs.
Our second film this week is The Hobbit, set 60 years before the events of The Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson takes us again to Middle-earth and tells the story of Bilbo Baggins and his adventures with Gandalf the Wizard and a motley crew of dwarves as they set out to reclaim their ancestral home.
Far to the east, over ranges and rivers, lies a single solitary peak. The dwarves are determined to reclaim their homeland.
Well, it was epic, but I'm not sure it was epic being used in a good way. I mean, they seem to have, well, it's not seem to, it's exactly what they've done is taken a short book, divided it into 3 and tried to make an epic out of each section of it, which doesn't work because there isn't an epic story within those 1/3 of a book.
As we said, The Hobbit, for people who don't know, is the first. It's set before the events of The Lord of the Rings, and it's actually the shortest of all the 4 parts in novel form. But to drag just this short, and which is a brisk novel as well, into a 9-hour, which it will be when it's finished, film, it's a crazy decision. And I actually wondered this: is it the first time ever in the history of cinema that one book has been made into 3 films?
Yes.
and
hopefully the last.
Yeah, and it does feel like that though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The pacing is all wrong.
I can only say it is in very poor taste.
There's a couple of scenes, one in particular that's very slapstick, very cartoony kind of action happening, and where the dwarves are cleaning the plates Cinderella style.
I hope! Absolutely crap. I mean, singing. They were singing.
There was quite a lot of singing.
Throwing dishes to each other and doing juggling with them. And
They seem to have just forgotten all about the tone of the last 3 movies and just said, oh, let's experiment a little bit in this new one. You know, with the Cinderella scene and it's more slapstick later on where they have this...
They were waiting on mice to come out and start singing, like. Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't have been surprised if mice had come out and sang and doing it.
Here, Mr. Bilbo, where are you off to? I'm going on an adventure.
Martin Freeman plays the younger Bilbo. What did we think of him?
I thought Martin Freeman is well cast. I mean, I think he actually kind of looked like a hobbit even. I don't think they even probably had to do much makeup with him.
Just the
Looks
feet,
like a hobbit
just the
and
hairy
everything.
feet.
No, I heard he didn't do his feet.
There was this real feet.
No, he was cast well, but they didn't give him much to do. He was very
I thought
subdued.
he has a brilliant scene with Gollum where you think he really does his acting chops get a chance to come out.
I'm a hobbit from the Shire.
Oh, we like goblins as bats and fishes, but we hasn't tried hobbits before. Is it soft? Is it juicy?
No, keep your distance.
There's 13 dwarves. Did we find it hard to even... there was too many nearly to take them all
I
in,
didn't
wasn't
care
there?
about any of them. I didn't actually like any of them.
No.
What about the handsome king dwarf with the lustrous
Yeah, who didn't look
hair?
like a dwarf at all.
No, he didn't.
But like, I actually found you were more the more dwarfy ones slightly more endearing.
Yeah.
But
What do we think of Jimmy Nesbitt as a dwarf?
Yeah.
Think furnace with wings.
I need air.
Flash of light, searing pain, then poof, you're nothing more than a pile of ash.
It's a hard situation to manage, introducing 13 new characters
Yeah.
into a narrative that we're sort of already familiar with. And it is a lot to keep track of.
But they could have just maybe focused on 3 or 4 of the good ones and gotten us to like them at least.
Yeah.
Instead of just making us not care too much about any of them.
Yeah, and there is a few peripheral characters who comes in. Radagast the wizard, of course. Radagast the Brown, who seems very sort of unnecessary, really. We could have done without that story arc altogether.
Like him either.
He seemed very much one for the kids with his rabbits, you know, thumping and then shaking off in his rabbit chariot and stuff like
And
that.
They almost did have the talking mice there, where, like it was a hedgehog, but he was like he was almost talking.
I forgot about that. The hedgehog did kind of talk, but the hedgehog was like, beep, 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 and he's like, he's trying to feed it with something.
It's almost like George Lucas somehow got into the productions team and he started saying, "Here, guys, you know what you got to do? Some talking animals.
Yeah.
You know, some animals with human-like features."
A dark part has found a way back into the world.
Say in The Lord of the Rings, they did chop some things that were sort of unnecessary for the narrative to move on. But in this, they seem to have brought in extra stuff. I read in some of the things that they brought in, like characters and things from the Silmarillion, which is another book which gives kind of the lore of Middle-earth, which isn't a part of the trilogy or The Hobbit. But he's brought this lore of Middle-earth back into it, and it's too much.
To try and bulk it a bit,
but we didn't need that short story.
Yeah, but I'd imagine that's what the point of it all was.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Bulk it out, you know what I mean?
But it feels like padding, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's trying to bulk out a bag of air, isn't it? It's just, there's nothing in it.
Home is now behind you. The world is ahead.
The amount of CGI that they're using and whatnot has even affected the performance of... It seems as though perhaps it's affected the performance that the actors such as...
Ian
McKellen just seemed disinterested. Like, he didn't look like he was enjoying playing that role at all.
No, and whereas in previous films he did. And just to say, for me, the set-piece battles and things, whereas in the first, particularly the Fellowship of the Ring, where the action was quite tight, there might have been 2 or 3 baddies on screen at a time. Now we're seeing hundreds and waves of goblins all the time, and it looks artificial. And then just even the unlikeliness of them surviving the scenarios which they increasingly find themselves in. There was nothing believable about them. There's a scene where they're thrown down through rocks and everything like this, and it feels like a roller coaster rather than something plausible that could actually happen to the characters. And their survivability of these situations is completely unrealistic.
Yeah, in the other movies there was a kind of a human element where it's like, okay, this is fantasy, but they seem to have the same survivability as a human might have. So it's believable.
You could relate to the set pieces. Yeah.
That's the reality that you're kind of sucked into and you believe, and that's not in this. This is like cartoons.
Cartoon stuff.
Well, that could have been worse.
Okay, Eric, I'm going to start with you. Your marks out of 10 for The Hobbit, and as you said, you're coming to this as not a huge fan of the series, but a man who enjoyed the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
The Hobbit, no, I can't recommend it to people at all, even the fans. Do you know what I mean? Based on the fact that the whole thing, the book is being completely diluted now. They've changed the whole look that the original trilogy had. No, I'm not happy, and the screenplay awful. Characters were awful, as in they weren't built on. So I'm going with, I'm gonna go with 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10.
I really did not enjoy that film. It was one of the longest experiences of my life. I really did not like it.
Mike, you, as you said, you did come into this with a little bit more, love of the series. You wanted to like this.
I did really want to like it, but I was very disappointed. And I don't know, there's something about these road movies that you get sucked into them and you get taken on this journey with the characters. And there was a moment when I felt like that was happening for me, and I was sinking back into the seat and thinking, okay, now we're going to get going, but it never got going. I'd give it maybe 5 out of 10.
As I said, I am a fan. Some of it looked lovely. There was enough of it maybe to bring you along a little bit, but at the end I left disappointed, so only 5 out of 10 for me as well. Okay, well that's it for the Hobbit. Not well reviewed at all. As I said, we really wanted to go and like this, but in the end it just went on for too long, and maybe we have to sit through 6 more hours of this. It's way too much. It's an epic journey, all right, but it's not fun.
I like 101 Dalmatians.
It's the Santa Claus I like.
The Grinch. Okay. Just because at the ending of it, it shows probably one of the true meanings of Christmas. It's just where everyone gets together, have fun, and they didn't really care about presents in the end. They just cared about being there with each other and just having friends and family around.
Rebecca.
I'm Naomi.
And where are you from?
Australia.
Any other films that you kind of maybe sit down and watch every year that mightn't necessarily be Christmassy but are always on?
Home Alone.
At Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Home Alone, definitely.
And what is it about that film that you like?
Because you can watch it as a family. There's nothing dirty or no innuendos. It's just a great family movie that anybody can watch.
Love Actually. A little bit romantic. Love a romance film. Yeah.
I like The Wizard of Oz
And I like Gone with the Wind when that's on. They kind of always come on at Christmas.
Yeah, the family would always together watching that, yeah. Or else you'd go with your wife when you were going with her in the old days, well before you were born. That's where we'd meet and go to the pictures in town.
I've seen it many times, yeah.
And is it one that you sit down maybe with family and stuff around the Christmas and watch, or is it more?
No, just friends, more girl, chick flick.
So that's what Christmas is all about for you?
Well, to me, yeah, because it's a time of getting together, like having a big communal feast with the family who you mightn't have seen for maybe be it a day or a month or a year.
And is that a film that you would sit down and watch all together with your family?
No, because I think it's too childish.
And is there a film that maybe that you remember sitting down with all your family and stuff and watching together around the Christmas time?
Independence Day.
It's a Wonderful Life.
And what is it about the film?
I just think that it's so optimistic and hopeful.
Elf.
You can have the family.
Yeah.
So have you a favourite Christmas film then?
I don't really have a favourite one, but I just watch ones on TV that come on TV.
Do you remember the first time you seen it?
When I was a child, many years ago, it's got Jimmy Stewart in. Yeah, I remember it was when I was probably in the 70s, I'd say I saw it first.
So it has fond associations?
Yes, it does. It does have very fond associations for us at Christmas time.
And yourself?
I think my film is, it's not strictly a Christmas film, but it would be Home Alone. And it's a film that I remember before I had children watching. And now we have children, and it's a great family movie to sit down and see. A little bit of Christmas in there, very funny, and I think it goes across the generations.
I was up at 5 o'clock this morning.
And when you got in, did you get any bargains?
Oh, lots of bargains. We've been looking
picked up a
around at
few.
the nice Christmas decorations and taking in the Christmas atmosphere. We've been up at the animal farm, you know, the crib, yeah. And it was really enjoyable, yeah. It's lovely seeing all the kids singing carols and everything. Just getting into the Christmas atmosphere.
Yes, things like Mary Poppins and those, they're always around Christmas. I remember we sat down and watched those, and
Well, the one that always is on
The
at
Sound of
Christmas is
Music.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and again, that's not really a Christmas film, but it was
We
just
just
something that
remember
was always
those
on,
ones,
wasn't it?
those ones.
And now with the two versions there to watch, and we might like the older version, and the kids are more into. Well, my wife is more into Johnny Depp.
Who isn't?
And would you say that this time of the year are you more likely to sit down with your family all together and watch a film?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a Wonderful Life. That has a lot of meaning for me to watch at Christmas.
You invariably wind up watching John Wayne in True Grit, which I saw originally on its release. I was living in the States, which is a long time ago.
Mary Poppins.
And what is it about Mary Poppins that
I
you
don't think she brings back memories of when the children were younger, and I was watching it with them, and I still like to see it.
White Christmas with Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye.
And what is it about that movie that you like?
Well, I think it's about happiness and joy and everything. I mean, everything works out in the end, you know, everybody's happy, and that's maybe the world should be made like that. That's what we'd all like to see.
It's got to be Die Hard because it's on every Christmas, you know. Nakatomi Plaza, throwing people off buildings, can't get much better than that, to be honest.
Our film from the film archive this week is a Christmas special, and it's Die Hard, one of our favourite Christmas movies, lads.
Best Christmas film ever made.
Mike, Die Hard.
Love it.
Where
I'm
do
not
you
going to say
start?
it's my favourite Christmas movie now. There's others, like, I think Scrooge will always be my favourite, but we won't talk about that now.
Opinion.
I won't have a bad word said about Scrooge.
But it is Die
Die
Hard's
Hard,
one
brilliant.
set at Christmas, a Christmas party in the Nakatomi Plaza.
Nakatomi Plaza.
Fun ensues.
I remember getting into a cinema. I'm not going to name it. I might as well name it. It was called The Cameo. It's closed down now. But they used to let in underage people to see 18s films, and I went in to see Die Hard in there, and my God, was my gob dropped all the way through. I thought it was fantastic, and I still look to this day, and it's brilliant.
I don't know if I was even born when Die Hard was released.
We won't go into that. But anyway,
So that makes you...
I was a sperm when I went to see it.
But Mike, it's one of these films that no matter how many times it's on the television, you'll sit down and watch Die Hard.
Yeah, I actually just watched it 2 days ago when it was on TV.
probably my favourite villain in a film ever in Alan Rickman. As you said, Eric, what was it? You're not going to do it.
Alan Rickman's so likeable though, isn't he? So charismatic
Brilliant.
that even when he's a villain, you love him, but you love hating him, but you still love him. Like,
I don't think he was hard to hate in that one now. In all fairness, he had some great lines in that. His motley crew of German terrorists as well were great to watch.
Cliched as stereotypical as they could possibly get.
And then you had old Bruce, made him a big star, didn't it?
I think that. Well, I mean, he had roles and stuff. Moonlighting was a huge TV show.
And all that, but I mean, this made him a big
he
film
was
star.
Pretty young still. Then,
he was,
he was like 33, I think.
Yeah, he was using his own hair and everything back then.
Not much of it. It was
not
starting
much.
to appear.
Yeah, and he made it stand up, so he'd look even younger. But I mean, like he was great. I mean, Bruce Willis is not like I mean, I love Bruce Willis. But he's not the strongest actor in the world by any stretch of imagination. But he was perfect.
Yeah, and his charisma, he was very charismatic in that role.
He's good at like he's flawless enough as an actor. He's probably like a great range, but he's a good actor.
Yeah,
and he's the wisecracking cop. You know, it's a perfect role.
It's an incredibly well-directed film, isn't it? And the pacing is absolutely perfect. We've talked a bit earlier about The Hobbit and the pace and how wrong it is and how easy it is to get something completely wrong. But Die Hard is just perfect. I mean, there's not a superfluous scene in it, is there?
Yeah, I mean, prior to Die Hard, John McTiernan had directed Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Which is another classic action
film. Yeah. So what I was saying is he had plenty of practice there with that, and he perfected it then with Die Hard, I think. I mean, talk about a film shooting through. You know what I mean? Excuse the puns or whatever, but you know, I mean, it really flies in, doesn't it?
The actual set pieces that happen, they're believable. You think that he could fall down this thing and survive it and still be able to fight on. Just catch on. They're believable. Whereas in other things, we're seeing just way too much stuff happen. Too big falls, too much coincidence, really. Whereas actually, this is a man surviving on his wits here, and you believe every frame of it.
See, this is the difference with a well-made film.
Even though it's completely far-fetched, you are believing it.
That's what I'm saying. This is the difference between a well-made film when Bruce Willis ties a fire hose around himself and throws himself off a building, comes down, shoots in a window.
What's wrong with that?
And then the hose wheel falls down and starts dragging him out and so on. I mean,
to everything. Just you think, he's just made it, and there's an extra little kick. All the minor characters are all brilliant as well. Like,
brilliantly cast and brilliantly acted as well.
Yeah, you got the cocaine sniffing slick guy and and then you got the reporter guy. You know, that annoying red-haired guy that's in a lot of 80s movies. He's in Ghostbusters as well. He's
that guy. He's that weasel character.
Yeah.
And the cop, of course.
Pow.
Pal,
And the Twinkie lover cop.
And it has to be said, Paul Gleason, an absolute classic actor. God bless his soul, he's dead now. But Paul Gleason, who was the chief, was it, or whatever, the captain or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, from Breakfast Club. Yeah.
Brilliant,
very good.
Absolutely brilliant.
And even those two FBI guys that are only in it for 10 minutes and then they get killed.
And I can't remember the other guy's name.
Agent Johnson and Special Agent Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson.
No relation.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So each character is given so much thought, and then you see like this Jack Reacher thing today, and it's like.
And both of them are based on books. I mean, like Die Hard was based on the book, and Jack Reacher is based on the book, and it goes to show you that when you get the right people on board for these films, it'll work out right. If you get the wrong people on board, even if they're talented, it can go completely wrong.
Marks out of 10 for this is probably redundant, but we'll start with you, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, like 8 out of 10, I guess. It's hard to give. It's hard. Yeah, is that okay, guys? 8? Yeah. No, I mean, it's hard to give a 10 out of 10. It's not a classic movie, like, but it's a very, very entertaining action movie.
Yeah, and then probably, as you said, I know what it was 90 or 91, was it, Die Hard?
Oh, it was 88.
Oh, so I was going to say it's the pinnacle of the 80s action movie, so yeah, it is, isn't it?
It is.
Right, Eric?
10. I'm giving it 10 because I think it's an absolute classic and it's known as a classic and it's regarded as a classic and it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And many times we look at that film again.
Yeah, well, if it was on tonight, I'd probably watch it again.
Exactly, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's brilliant. Fantastic. For what it is, action film.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
and as I said, the same thing. For what it is, can't fault it. Absolutely perfect. 10 out of 10. December at the IFI sees the beginning of a complete retrospective of the 52 surviving films of Alfred Hitchcock. The Genius of Hitchcock is the largest season the IFI has ever undertaken. The screenings take place on Saturdays and Sundays, with notable screenings this month being Stage Fright on Saturday the 22nd, The Wrong Man on Saturday the 29th and Mary on Sunday the 30th. See the IFI's website for more details. Also at the IFI is the Teen Monthly Film Club for anyone aged between 15 and 18. For the whole month of December, a ticket for a screening between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. costs just €3, and if you buy a ticket for 4 films, you get your 4th ticket free. The Sunday Matinee Brunch Club takes place every Sunday at the Old Harcourt Street Station. The kids can watch their favourite films while you relax over Sunday brunch. That's it for this week's film calendar. If you've news of any film-related events that you'd like mentioned on the show, please send them into our email, details of which will appear at the end of the programme. And for any aspiring filmmakers, remember you can send your short films to us via a web link or on the on-screen address. That's it from us here at Back to the Feature for 2012. Thanks for watching and have a happy Christmas and New Year, and we'll see you again in 2013.
Christmas Scientologist.